Weather scope.
What was once Hurricane Nora is now a tropical storm. And although the system has weakened in status, it is still creating tremendous amounts of rain in the southwest. We get the latest from Rich Johnson in the Forecast Center. Rich?
Okay, thank you, Terry. We are following Tropical Storm Nora in the southwestern United States. And joining me right now is John Hope. He's our hurricane expert here at the Weather Channel. And John, not too often do we get a chance to talk about a tropical storm in the southwestern United States.
Very seldom indeed. Almost all the ones that ever come in there are a tropical depression before they arrive. Now, quite a few in the past have brought in some pretty heavy rains, but generally the wind is down below the tropical storm threshold before they make landfall.
Now, John, sort of interesting as we talk about tropical storms in the southwest and such, almost always it's during an El Nino year where we have some water temps which are above average.
There is a good correlation there, and I don't think that's very surprising, because if we look at the sea surface temperatures out there this year, we've described that quite a bit. We did very definitely have above normal sea surface temperatures off the west coast of Baja, California, along exactly the track that this storm took.
So that sort of added the energy to allow it to make its way farther north.
It did, and the other thing about it moved pretty rapidly. You know, once they get moving over 20 miles an hour, they start to get over colder water or even over land, they begin to weaken. But if they go rapidly, they don't have time to wind down entirely before they get there. This was actually a hurricane until just before it made landfall.
Okay, John, let's take a look at the latest stats for Nora. As of 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight, Nora was centered near Yuma. Top sustained winds 45 miles per hour. It is moving rapidly north at 26 miles per hour. John, how far north is this going to make it as a tropical storm before it's downgraded?
Well, we think it'll make it perhaps up into the northern part of Arizona, possibly even around Las Vegas, Nevada, up in there somewhere. And then it will wind down. But it's going to wind down gradually. If the top winds sustained are down to 45 miles an hour now, and if it drops 7 or 8 miles per hour below that, it'll be a depression.
Okay, let's take a look at the latest with our satellite picture. Again, let me set up the picture here. Here's the border, Mexico, California, Arizona through here. And show us where the heaviest rains now occur.
Well, I'm glad you drew that line on there because it's hard to see that border. But the heaviest rains, Rich, are over here somewhat east of what the path of the storm is going to be.
Looks like over to Phoenix, some rain, but really the areas west of Phoenix, quite a bit.
Phoenix is kind of on the borderline. Now, I haven't seen any actual reports in Phoenix showing rain, although they have a pretty good layer of clouds there. But as you're right, most of it's going to be from Phoenix on west.
John, what can you tell us about the rainfall tallies? I know you've been following those carefully today, and I think some areas of the southwestern deserts only see 2 or 3 inches in a whole year.
That's right. They've had about 2 3/4 inches at Yuma today, is the best we can figure. And that is very close to their 3-inch normal for the entire year.
That's just amazing to see that much rain in just one day.
Very seldom happens.
Okay, let's take a look now at our latest infrared satellite picture. And again, Arizona, not the only location, the only state picking up rain. Where else are we going to see rain?
Well, there's widespread disturbed weather over a good bit of the west. You can see already up into Utah, Nevada, and southeastern California has been getting rain all day. The heavier rain you see right there, that's all associated with the tropical storm itself.
John, we were talking to Jim Cantori live at Yuma earlier. And again, Yuma being right here, it almost looks like there's a few showers redeveloping off to the south again.
Well, maybe a few, Rich, but I would be quite surprised to see any very heavy rain. Any rain that does come in there now will be sudden bursts, and they could get a few more hundredths of an inch for sure.
Okay, let's take a look at the latest radar that we have. Again, first of all, focusing on into California, what do you see?
Well, I still see quite a bit of rain, perhaps not quite as much as we did a couple hours ago, some scattered showers all the way up into Nevada. And again, this precipitation here is what's associated with the core of the tropical storm.
Okay, let's go to the Doppler and tell us about what you see here.
Well, as you see, the radar site is here in the southwestern part of Arizona, and all this is beginning to move on north now at a pretty good rate of speed. And anything you have down here to the south, still down in Mexico, or south of Yuma, I think, again, will be just a sudden burst maybe, but not very much rain. Most of the rain is going to be to the north. And Rich is going to be along the path of the storm and to the east of it. So once it gets up into northern Arizona, be pretty heavy rains east of that. The same is true in Utah, and even up almost into Wyoming maybe in 48 hours.
So even maybe the Wasatch, Muggy, and Rim, that area you could see quite a bit.
Yeah, in the mountains, Rich, what you have to be concerned about is on the windward slopes of the mountains. where they have southeast winds, which they will have east of the storm, the rainfall will be enhanced.
All right, thank you, John. And briefly, can you tell us what we see in the Caribbean Sea? Is anything going on there?
We are watching an area in the Caribbean rather carefully. The conditions seem to be favorable for some development there, but so far we don't have any well-defined low, but we'll monitor that pretty carefully.
Okay, of course, we'll cover that on our tropical update. Again, John Hope, our tropical expert here at the Weather Channel. Now let's head back to Terry Smith in the studio. She's going to tell us about some very heavy rain in the southeast, also your forecast for you.
That's right, Rich. Thanks a lot. We are seeing some very heavy rain across parts of the southeast, and it's been causing a lot of headaches. The rain has been pretty much steady in Atlanta today, and the umbrellas at times weren't enough. In fact, at times the rain was blinding, bringing the visibilities down to near zero. Now, from the time the rain started yesterday until lunch hour today, and actually past lunch hour, we'd seen almost 3 inches of rainfall. And
Tropical storm Nora continues to push inland, spreading heavy rain and gusty winds across the desert southwest. Hello, I'm Lisa Moser. You've also had rain flooding problems in the southeast, but first let's get the latest on Nora from Rich Johnson in the Forecast Center. Rich?
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. We continue to follow Nora. We've been tracking Nora for a long time now, and of course yesterday it was off of the Baja. Now it's into Arizona as it continues its northerly track. Let me give you the latest information on Tropical Storm Nora. Yes, Nora made it into California, Arizona as a tropical storm near Yuma, Arizona. That was as of 2 p.m. In fact, I can tell you right now, I was checking out the latest conditions at Yuma, and the winds are switching over to the southwesterly direction like so. So that means with the winds blowing like this, not very nice arrow there, but anyhow, you get the idea. You have to have a low-level circulation like so. That means Nora must now be off to the northwest of Yuma, placing it across the border. Top sustained winds 45 miles per hour. Of course, tropical storm strength starts at 39. It's usually rounded off to 40 miles per hour on the advisory. So that's the latest information on Nora. These are the latest scenes out of Yuma. In fact, Jim Cantori, he was live today giving us coverage what was going on. In very heavy rain, some of the totals all the way up to 2 3/4 inches. That is about as much rain as you see in Yuma the whole year. So a day's worth of rain actually equaled what we usually see over the whole year. And yeah, some of the winds gusting up to 54 miles per hour. Here's our satellite photograph, a close-up visible shot here, Gulf of California here. Notice mostly fair skies. Into Arizona up here, still plenty of showers, a few clouds around. Let's expand out just a little bit to get a better idea of what's happening here. Into California, still a large stream of clouds here. Let me mention here, this is not all associated with the tropical storm, which is somewhere down in this vicinity, right in through here, tropical storm, right up along the California-Arizona border. We actually had a trough of low pressure yesterday, and that triggered some thunderstorms off the California coast. So a combination of the trough and also with Nora bringing the moisture on in. Here's our infrared satellite imagery. The blue colors here and some of the yellows indicate the coldest cloud tops, and that simply is a way of measuring how high some of these showers are. Not always, but in this case here, when we see the yellows and the blues, that's still telling us that we have a couple pockets of heavy rain. Phoenix in this location right through here, off to your southwest and generally west, that is where the heaviest rains continue. Here's the latest radar. Still some rain out across the desert areas of California. Palm Springs, of course, normally noted for sunshine and hot weather. Today it has been actually pretty cool today with lots of rain showers around. Also rain heading all the way up past Kingman. And actually what the problem is we're going to find here is we work with some of the elevations of northwest Arizona, also the mountainous areas of Utah. That is where some enhancement will occur, meaning that some of these totals could be 1 to 3 inches or more. So the low pressure center should continue tracking up this way and gradually turn a little bit more off to the east. In fact, the track should take it actually just a little bit off to the east of Las Vegas. Let's take a look at the Doppler. Probably one of the last times we're going to look at the Doppler out of Yuma, because the circulation center with Yuma in this area indicating that it is moving off to the northwest, and the rain is actually starting to taper down too. So what advice can we give you? Still some heavy rain. Make sure you use precautions if you live near areas where there's rivers or streams. They could be flooded, and many times they normally aren't in the southwest. Well, let's head back to the studio with Lisa. There's been a lot of rain in the southeast today. She's going to tell us about it.
Thanks, Rich. And of course, we'll have more updates from the forecast center as we head into the evening hours. But yes, lots more rain besides out in the southwest, like in the southeast. It has been raining very hard in the Atlanta area. Much of the day, generally, the city had around 3 to 4 inches of rainfall, but more than 8 inches was reported in some parts of the northern suburbs. That, of course, has caused some very problem flooding in the vicinity. We are going to continue to see some rain into tonight's hours. However, tomorrow's forecast for Atlanta, looking for the cloud cover to break and some sun and a temperature that may peak just above 70. We'll have to hold our fingers on that one, but let me tell you exactly why the forecast is getting a little bit better, although looking at our visible, we should go on because what we are seeing is the upper low circulation over northern Mississippi. The cloud cover is still here, although it's faint because of the darkening hours. But we are still seeing a massive area of cloud cover overnight tonight, but it is going to sink a little further to the south, and that may give way, at least over northern Georgia, to a little bit of sunshine. So that's some good news there. Looking at the estimated precipitation, notice that we're still getting that large area of yellow and orange to darken a bit, and that's because we still have had some rain showers in that vicinity, around 3 to 6 inches where you see the yellow and orange coloring. Outside of that, we're talking 2 to 3, the darker green, more widespread, at least 2 inches. Looking at that regional radar towards Atlanta right now, getting some moderate rain showers. These kind of pulled in from the south. They'll head just a little bit closer to that South Carolina border, so watch out if you're headed up I-85 or southward. You'll run into some rain showers this hour. Also, with the upper level low, the circulation, still seeing some rain showers, mostly moderate, but a few thunderstorms may be embedded. We're seeing a little bit of yellowing in the coloring there.
Tropical storm Nora continues to move over the southwest U.S., bringing tremendous rains to the area. Good evening and welcome to this edition of WeatherScope. I'm Sharon Resulton. Nora is weakening, though, as it moves over land, and in a moment we're going to check in with our Weather Channel crew in Yuma, Arizona. But first, Jeff Morrow joins us with the very latest in the Forecast Center.
All right, Sharon, and indeed it is a very rare occurrence to get a tropical storm all the way up into the southwest. The last system that may have qualified was Kathleen way back in 1976, and officially there was a wind gust there in Yuma of 57 miles an hour. Today, I believe the highest wind gust I saw there about 54 miles an hour, so it isn't all that often that we get this kind of a system. But the good news here is it's a fast mover, and it is weakening rather quickly as well. Let's give you the latest on Tropical Storm Nora. Again, as of the 2 p.m. advisory, we're getting the advisories now every 6 hours because all the watches and warnings that had been out down along the Baja California and the Gulf of California have all been expired and are gone. 32.7 north, 114.8 west. As of this time, it was near Yuma, Arizona, the center of circulation, but it has now moved north of that area. Winds at 45 miles per hour and moving north at a very fast clip, 26 miles an hour. All right, here's the satellite vantage point, and very hard really to pick out any kind of a center of circulation. We think that it's probably right in here, moving generally due north, and we think maybe more of a north-northeasterly track up into southern areas of Utah will ensue with time. But right now, again, it is pretty much moving generally in a due northerly direction. And here's a look at a radar, and you can see most of the moisture now moving just about as far east as Phoenix. That's about as far east as this precipitation has got. I noticed that Luke Air Force Base, west side of Phoenix, had a thunder shower about an hour or so ago, but it never really had rain very much downtown. Up toward Prescott and Flagstaff getting some light rain. More of that on over toward Kingman, Arizona, and Las Vegas as well getting some rain. We'll talk more about Las Vegas and parts of Southern California in just a moment. First of all, though, we want to go to Yuma, Arizona, where the center of Nora moved by about 4 or 5 hours ago, and Jim Cantori was there when it all happened. Jim, give us the latest.
Well, Jeff, it was definitely in its weakened state, but amazingly enough, after we dealt with the heavy rain, then came the wind, and that's when the power outages came through. I want to show you this street here. 2 hours ago, this street was barricaded, and you couldn't drive through it. And in probably about 45 minutes since we've been here, a lot of the water has pretty much gone. So good news tonight as we continue to see a lot of improvements here in Yuma, not only with restoration of power, but also with the street flooding, which continues to go by the wayside. Still memories, though, of Nora's moisture coming on through here, and you can see it as it stands in this empty lot. To kind of give us a synopsis on exactly what happened, we're going to talk to Mr. Mike Shelton again. He's with the city of Yuma. And Mike, how did Yuma fare with this?
I think Yuma fared very well with it, thanks to the training that many of us officials had looking forward to this kind of event. We had 10,000 people that are without power right now. Arizona Public Service is dealing with that. We've had numerous street floodings. Fortunately, that's kind of going down as time has gone on. And, you know, we've had other incidents of that sort. But fortunately, because the rain level was much less than forecast, we came out pretty good.
What did it take to prepare you for this? I mean, when did you kind of get things really, the ball rolling here?
You know, we've really been going through disaster drills for quite a while. And with Hurricane Linda, we got kind of a forecast of this kind of thing. And then Nora comes up. Well, we really snapped together. We were in gear, the city, the county, the Red Cross, Rural Metro, National Guard, all of us pulling together. And we had great support from the governor's office, from APS in Phoenix. And really, we just all pulled together, and we just knew what to do and went out and did it.
And you're already prepared for what could be a very big El Nino year, is that correct?
Well, we're certainly trying to prepare for it. It is going to be tremendous. I mean, as you well know, El Nino may drop 10 times as much rain in this part of the country as we're accustomed to. Yuma is accustomed to getting 3 inches of rain a year. Right. We have 3 inches of rain in the last 2 weeks. So we may be looking at 20 or 30 inches. That will be very difficult for us to deal with. So we really have to look at how we're going to cope with it.
All right, we talked about Kathleen earlier. Thank you very much, Mike. That coming through in 1976, that was an El Nino year. Perhaps Nora is the first onslaught of this year's El Nino. We'll just have to wait and see. Back to you, Jeff.
All right, thanks, Jim. That was Jim Cantori live in Yuma, Arizona, and we'll be getting back to Jim again at the top of the hour. Let's show you another city that had to deal with some of the rain here. This is Las Vegas. And again, it doesn't take very much rain to flood the streets of Vegas, and only about 1/3 of an inch officially at the airport, although it's still raining there now. And that was quite enough to cause some localized flooding. A flash flood watch still in effect at this hour. And again, some locally heavy rain will continue to move up through southern Nevada, northwest Arizona, and on into southwest Utah, probably over the next several hours as the tropical storm and probably eventually here the remnants of Nora continue to move on to the north. Of course, we'll keep you updated on its progress and where the heaviest rain is. Right now, though, let's go back to the studio. Sharon Resultant has a look at the rest of the nation's weather and a sneak peek at tomorrow's forecast.
Thanks, Jeff. Elsewhere, heavy rains have drenched the southeast, causing localized flooding and keeping temperatures on the cool side. Let's take a peek at the latest satellite in the southeast. You'll be able to see, of course, that there is still a lot of moisture to contend with, and along with that, more of it being drawn in from the Gulf of Mexico. So we're looking at some problem areas indeed across the southeastern part of the country. It's getting a little bit better for you.
This is WeatherScope. Rain generated by Tropical Storm Nora now is falling in southern Utah as the storm continues to push inland. Thanks for joining us. I'm Warren Madden. You've also seen some very heavy rain in the southeast, and we will be talking about that. But first, the latest on Nora from Jeff Morrow in the Forecast Center.
Some good news with Nora. We've seen some locally heavy rainfall totals, but really the saving grace with this tropical system has been its fast movement, so it really hasn't been hanging around any one area very long. There have been some gusty winds, but again, the big story has been the rain, and it is moving rather quickly. We'll talk more about that in a moment. First of all, the latest, and this as of the 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time advisory. We'll be getting a new advisory from the Hurricane Center in a little over an hour, but I can guarantee you it won't be at these coordinates anymore. And it won't be near Yuma. The center of circulation, or what's left of it, moving rapidly north at 26 miles an hour. So again, it is not hanging around southern Arizona very long. It is scooting to the north rather quickly. Joining me now here in the Forecast Center is Meteorology Supervisor Stu Ostro. And Stu, fast movement, I think that was the saving grace with this system.
That's right, as we'll see with Jim in a moment. Well, first of all, they did have some gusty winds in Yuma, gust of 54 miles per hour. It was a tropical storm at the time. Over 2 inches of rain, but the fact that it moved very quickly averted any more serious problems. Still have been some problems there, but I think what we saw in Yuma was an ideal example, or a perfect example, of how a town prepared for an oncoming tropical storm or hurricane, whether it be Arizona or Florida or New Jersey. Whenever you are threatened by something like that, it's best to take the precautions for the worst case example, and if it turns out a little better, great.
Better to be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Absolutely.
In this case. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the satellite vantage point. And again, we'll put it on into motion. The center of circulation here, Stu, a little bit hard to find, but looks like there's still a fair amount of moisture here, and there still could be some locally heavy rains.
That's right. The center of circulation, which, as you said, is very hard to find, is somewhere around here, maybe even up into here now, pulling north of Yuma. Under the deeper blues here, it pretty well correlates where the heaviest rain is, although some of these clouds in here, whoops, are just high clouds, what we call cirrus clouds. The heavier rain, as we'll see in the radar, is actually moving through northwestern Arizona, and here it is, northwest Arizona on into southwest Utah.
All right, and as a matter of fact, we have a flood warning that just came out of Arizona.
Right, and a good example of why people shouldn't let their guard down just yet. Flash flooding for northern La Paz County, west central Arizona. I want to read the safety notice here that the Weather Service put out. Most flash flood deaths occur in automobiles. Do not attempt to cross bridges, dips, or low spots if water covers the roadway, etc., etc. Very important advice to follow. If you're not sure how deep the water is, don't try to cross it.
All right, good advice. We'll be back with Stu in just a moment. But first of all, we want to go live to Yuma, Arizona. Jim Cantore has the latest on what has been a good day for Yuma as far as it could have been a lot worse. Right, Jim?
Jeff, it really has, and you guys absolutely nailed it when you said these folks were over-prepared. They were prepared for, you know, easily a Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane, which we knew wasn't coming. But just think, if we had had more rain, if we had had 5 inches of rain, I think this area could have dealt with it as well. So the folks here in Yuma need to be extremely proud of themselves and how they dealt with the situation, and to think, you know, hey, maybe we may have to deal with this again with the potential of El Nino coming up. But this has been a good thing given the speed of the system, and surely the folks have got to be very, very happy about just dealing with a few raindrops tonight. As you can see here behind me, we still have a few leftover reminders of Nora's moisture, but the good news is they're decent reminders. They're in no way, shape, or form going to harm anybody. Just a few puddles left over here and some empty lots, and all the streets that were flooded earlier are pretty much clear at this time. A few leftover power outages, anywhere from 5 to 10,000, but the Arizona Power hopes to have those folks back online later on tonight. Jeff?
All right, thanks, Jim, and we'll be talking with Jim throughout the rest of this evening, updating us on the aftermath there in Yuma. Let's come back now to Stu Ostro, and Stu, let's talk a little bit about where the remnants of Nora, or still a tropical storm really at this point, but where that may be headed.
Well, as far as the surface circulation, as we call it, of the wind rotation around the center, that's already getting somewhat hard to find. We can still find it, but it's pretty broad and disorganized. It's moving up through, as we said, north of Yuma. We'll head up in here, but really that is not the important thing so much as the rainfall, which will emerge from northern Arizona, actually is already getting into southern Utah, and will be in and around the state of Utah as we head into the morning hours on Friday. Still some locally heavy rains with that.
All right, so maybe even as far north as Salt Lake City, they may have to deal with some of Nora's moisture as we pull on through tomorrow morning. Thanks, Stu. We'll be back with Stu again at the top of the hour, as well as Jim Cantore. Right now, though, let's go back to the studio, and Warren has a look at the rest of the nation's weather and a look at your forecast.
Elsewhere, heavy rains have drenched the southeast, and that's caused some localized flooding, and it's kept temperatures on the cool side. Let's take a look at the map, and what we have out there is a low-pressure system that is right now centered, say, around Pensacola, Florida, heading up in towards, say, Eglin Air Force Base, Hurlburt Air Force Base. Frontal system right along it, and we have seen some heavy amounts of rain out of this system. Amounts over 4 inches have been common. Before this system came through, northern Georgia, in fact, pretty much the entire Peach State, was on the dry side. In some cases, 4 or 5 inches below normal rainfall. Not anymore. Not with this storm. We've had some reports of up to 6 and 7 inches of rainfall to the northwest.
Helping people see better 1 hour at a time.
This is WeatherScope.
Well, Tropical Storm Nora is quickly making its way through the southwest U.S., dumping heavy rains in its wake. Good evening and welcome to this edition of WeatherScope. I'm Sharon Resulton. We're going to check on that and the latest weather and our Weather Channel crew in Yuma, Arizona in just a moment. But now Jeff Morrow joins us from the Forecast Center with more.
Okay, Sharon, we're continuing to monitor the progress of Tropical Storm Nora, which we suspect may be downgraded to at least a depression. As we head on through the next few minutes, we're expecting a new advisory from the Hurricane Center at just about any moment. But let's give you the latest that we do have. Tropical Storm Nora still at this point. And again, this was way back at 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It was centered at 32.7 north, 114.8 west. It was near Yuma at that point, but has now moved well north. at least what's left of the center of circulation has moved north of that area, and it is moving north rather rapidly at 26 miles an hour. Joining me now here in the forecast center is meteorology supervisor Stu Ostro. And Stu, we were expecting some areas could get as much as 5, 6, 7 inches of rain. Fortunately, it looks like Nora moved fast enough that we didn't get that.
That's right. Most amounts, most of the heavier amounts have been in the 1 to 2 to 3 inch range. A couple of spots higher than that. Still, a couple of flash flood warnings have been issued in the last, issued in the last half hour. That's an indication that it doesn't take much to get some flash flooding, and people need to not let their guard down just quite yet.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of those rainfall tallies. And again, Mount Laguna is actually in California, not too far away from the LA Basin, really. A little over 4 there, a lot of what we call orographics getting into effect in some of these higher elevations. 29 Palms is out in the desert. That's a lot of rain for that area. San Diego at 3/4, and that is the LA Civic Center ending their streak of rainless days in a big way, almost a ½ inch of rain there. Stu, let's talk about where this center of circulation is now and where the heaviest rain is.
Well, the center of circulation right about in here somewhere, we think. Winds blowing counterclockwise around low pressure systems in the northern hemisphere. Still some gusty winds, particularly on the east side, 30, 40 miles per hour, a couple spots over in here. The rain generally on the northern half of the storm. Some in Nevada, heavier here, where a couple of the flash flood warnings have been in Arizona, and some heavy rain now pushing into southwestern Utah. All
right, let's quickly go over those. Where are the flash flood warnings right now?
Let's see, one in western Yavapai County. Spotter reports indicate flooding of streams and washes in the vicinity of Baghdad. And then also northwestern Maricopa County, northern and east central La Paz County. Some places affected Wickenburg, Alamo State Park, and we hope that nobody's in a dangerous position camping in state parks and national parks. Automatic rain gauges in the warning area receiving in excess of 3/4 inch of rain per hour. So still some heavy downpours going on out there.
All right, and we did get the latest from the Hurricane Center here. Nora is now a depression. We'll get to that in a moment, but first let's go to Jim Cantore. He's live in Yuma, Arizona. And Jim, we now have a depression, and really things in Yuma there have been quiet for quite a while, right?
Yeah, they really have, Jeff. Once the blast came through this afternoon with the rain and then the wind, it's pretty much been ending. But this rain's been kind of slow to loosen its grip on southwestern Arizona, so it's been kind of soggy here. And it's kind of funny listening to a couple of the local folks talk about this kind of feels like a really cold night in the middle of winter, and it's actually quite warm. All you need is just a little rain slicker here. But I guess, you know, it depends on where you come from and what you're used to, right? Well, let's go ahead and show you what it was like earlier on. We did have quite a bit of rain in a short period of time, and you know what that means, especially for a desert area, flash flooding. 1 to 2 feet of water covering the roadways. The good news is a lot of the emergency management folks and a lot of the public officials had this in mind. They had so many folks on standby, ready to go. As a matter of fact, I even heard one story that they had power poles standing by in case they lost several of them with the wind, but they hadn't had to use those. So they were just really prepared, and they have a lot to be proud of tonight. The good news is all the streets are fine. Traffic's moving just great. The only one thing left over is, of course, this little drizzle, actually 2 things. And we do have still reports of some power outages around, but they hope to get those cleared up by midnight, Jeff.
All right, thanks a lot. That's Jim Cantore live in Yuma, Arizona. We'll be getting back to Jim with a complete wrap-up here on Nora in probably the next half hour or so. Again, here's Stu Ostro in the forecast. Well, no, we don't. Yeah, we do have Stu in the forecast center. And Stu just wanted to talk a little bit about this depression, tropical depression now, Nora, and this is the last advisory, it looks like, by the Hurricane Center.
That's right, and just to review some terminology, hurricane, maximum sustained winds of 74 miles per hour or higher, tropical storm 39 to 73, so it has now dropped below that. Still some gusts around 35, 40 miles per hour in a few spots, but the wind circulation is really winding down now.
Okay. Thanks, Stu, and Stu will be with us again at the top of the hour. We'll have all that for you graphically, and we'll keep you updated on where we think some of this moisture from Nora is going to be headed. Right now, though, let's go back to the studio. Sharon has a look at the rest of the nation's weather.
Well, the Southwest is not the only place getting the heavy rain. Much of the Southeast got quite a soaking. Let's take a peek at the satellite picture. You'll be able to get a good view after we get past this satellite picture of what is happening in the South and East. And let's go to it. I'll show you what's going on. And you can see all the tropical moisture being pulled northward here, too. We've had reports of rain over the past 36 hours, almost 5.5 inches around Marietta, Georgia.
This will be a rainy but very memorable night across parts of the southwest as what is now Tropical Depression Nora continues its trek inland. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. I'm Warren Madden. Heavy rain continues to fall in some areas. That's prompting some flood worries, but for the most part, Nora has only caused minor problems. Jeff Morrow is in the forecast center now, and he's here with an update.
That's right, Warren, and I think we can thank the quick movement of Nora really to the general lack of a lot of serious problems. Now, we still had problems, still had a lot of rain, some wind, some downed trees, some power lines down, and some localized flooding. But I imagine that if this system would have moved more slowly, it could have been a heck of a lot worse. Let's give you the latest from the Hurricane Center as of the 8 p.m. And by the way, this is the last advisory being written on this system by the Hurricane Center. Tropical Depression, now Nora, centered at this point at 35 north, 114.7 west, but moving north very quickly now, 25 miles an hour. Before too long, the center of circulation, or what's left of it, will probably be up over southwest Utah. Already some heavy rain moving in there. And again, the maximum sustained winds, 35 miles per hour with some higher gusts. As far as the rainfall totals, Mount Laguna, California, actually leading this list with over 4 inches of rain. Yuma, Arizona, 2.77, and that is just about as much as they get during an entire year. Look at 29 Palms there, 2.4 out in the deserts of Southern California. San Diego and LA getting in on the rain too. And by the way, that rainfall for LA, the first time measurable rain there in Los Angeles since, I believe it was February the 17th, and that is a record number of dry days there. But that's all at an end now. Well, let's go ahead and show you exactly where we had some of the worst conditions today, and that is in Yuma, Arizona with Jim Cantori. Jim, you were there for the whole system, actually since last night when I was talking to you. Tell us what kind of a day you had today.
Well, Jeff, actually it wasn't too bad, at least to start off with, but once around noontime today, the heavier rain kicked in. It was amazing. We were standing in front of several fields, and you could see them flood very, very rapidly. Not a lot of street flooding where we were because we were a little higher up, but that was unlike what they dealt with here in downtown Yuma. You can see some of the streets dealing with about 1 to 2 feet of water there, but actually wasn't too bad. A lot of this water receded very, very quickly once the rain stopped in just a couple of hours' time, but it's pretty amazing here. Like you mentioned, 2.77 inches. That's almost what they would receive in a year. It's been 21 years plus a few days since they dealt with a tropical system coming in. That was Kathleen back in 1976. Also an El Nino year. So fresh on the folks' minds out here is, hey, is this the start of yet another El Nino? I want to show you something amazing here, Jeff, as I walk behind me. This is one of the estimated 30,000 sandbags that was made in preparation for Nora's arrival, and they expected anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rain. As you mentioned, the speed, a key factor here. It took Nora and its moisture and scooped it on out of here in a big hurry, so they wound up with a lot less. But you got to be thankful here if you're a Yuma resident, because they did the hard work and they were well prepared for what could have been a lot worse situation. Jeff?
Yeah, which is even more impressive when you think, Jim, that this is an area of the country that almost never gets a tropical system. I mean, like you said, the last one was back in '76. This is very rare, so indeed a lot of kudos for the folks there in Yuma.
Yeah, Jeff, let me show you some pictures about some of the flooding that we had here today. It was, again, street flooding, one of the bigger problems. Power outages, some minor roof damage. We did have one guy out there fixing his roof this evening. He was actually under repair to start with, so it wasn't really officially roof damage caused by the storm. But the good news is about 45 minutes after the rain had ended, after about a 2-hour downpour, a lot of this water receded, and the traffic is flowing freely tonight. We're still hearing about a few folks without power. Good news indeed, because Arizona Power is out there, and they're hoping to get those folks back online. Jeff?
All right, thanks, Jim, and we'll be getting back to Jim again here within the next half hour or so, keeping us updated on the aftermath there of what is now Tropical Depression Nora. Let's take a quick look at a radar here, and we've got some more video we want to show you first of all. Okay, we'll do the radar first, then we'll get to the video. All right, we'll get it all straight here, folks. Let's go ahead and put this on into motion. And while this is in motion, I'm going to draw for you an area here in northwest Arizona, and there are some flood warnings up in northwest Maricopa County, northern and east central La Paz County, western Yavapai County, and a new one out for most of northern and western Coconino County. That's up around the Grand Canyon there, folks. Those are all flood warnings out for at least another hour or two. The Coconino warning out until 12:10 local time. Now, the question is, where is this system going to be headed from here? You can see some of the rain already getting as far north as southwest Utah, and eventually the center, or what's left of the circulation, will be up here into Utah, and from there it may be spreading rain off toward the north and to the east. But again, there still could be some localized flooding, but the good news is that this system continues to diminish in intensity as far as the winds, and eventually the rain will be moving away from the southwest as well. We'll keep you updated on the remnants of Nora and whether we have any more flooding problems. Again, as I mentioned, some flood warnings out in Arizona. Right now, though, let's go back to the studio, and Warren has a look at the rest of the nation's weather and a look at your forecast.
Thanks, Jeff. Now, the southwest isn't the only place getting heavy rain. Much of the southeast got quite a soaking as well, and it continues.
On Earth has better weather.
This tropical